that was ugly. Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm James Rapien of allbengals.com here at Cleveland Browns Stadium, where the Bengals, they lose the season opener 24-3 at the hands of the Cleveland Browns, and it was ugly from the jump. It never felt right. They were out of rhythm, and there's a lot to discuss about the game specifically, but just some quick notes while it'll give you time to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. First things first, as far as this Bengals team is concerned, this is going to be a thing now. You better believe. Playing Cleveland, the matchup, all of those things, going to be a thing moving forward. Zac Taylor is now 0-5 in Cleveland as head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. He's the first Bengals head coach to fall to 0-5 in his first 5 matchups here in Cleveland. Obviously, it's road. He beat the Browns at home before multiple times, but here at Cleveland Browns Stadium, Joe Burrow falling to 1-5 against the Browns in his tenure as well, and Zach falling to 1-4 in regular season openers. That said, this was an ugly game from the start, and I know a lot of people are going to bring up the preseason. Well, Pittsburgh played their starters in the preseason, and they got their butts whooped too. So I get that. I get that logic. I also think that this is a really tough matchup for the Bengals, and their offense was awful. And that's the storyline of this game. For whatever the reason, right? Joe Burrow, 14 of 31 for 82 yards, clearly career lows, didn't get close to throwing a touchdown pass, couldn't connect with T. Higgins at all. And that starts with Joe. T took the blame afterwards, and we posted video about that. T took the blame about not having a catch on 8 targets. That said, and that's the first time ever that he can remember at least. That said, some of this is on Burrow too. He was inaccurate. He certainly didn't play the way we're used to him playing. So do you want to blame the calf? Do you want to blame the lack of preseason time, the fact that he missed 5 weeks or so with the calf injury? I mean, you could go a bunch of different ways, but the bottom line is he didn't play at the level that everyone's expecting him to play, that I certainly expected him to play today. And part of that did have to do with the elements. This Bengals team, you know, during training camp, I got asked when the Bengals were practicing in the rain, like, oh, well, they have an indoor facility now. Why would they practice on a slippery surface? Well, today is why. And I don't think Burrow was out there for that practice. He had already suffered the calf injury. But it's hard to play in the elements when you're not playing in the elements, practicing in the elements. And the Bengals, I think they did some good things today, and I promise I will get to some good things. But offensively, they just looked lost in the elements. Burrow was off, and they could just never get into a rhythm. And I think this matchup is a really tough one. I think this Browns defense, they can cover at a high level, and they can get after the passer at a high level. And even though Joe Burrow was only sacked a couple of times, he never looked that comfortable. No one would describe Joe Burrow today as comfortable in the pocket. And the Bengals, for the first time in the Joe Burrow era, punted on 7 straight possessions to begin the game. 7. Think about that. I think this guy's messing with me now to see if he can get me to mess up. I'm not going to mess up and fold under the pressure, man, on the tractor. That said, he's circling me, so that's interesting. But Joe Burrow in this Bengals offense, under Burrow, they had never punted more than 4 times at the start of a game, according to ESPN Stats and Info. Today, it was 7. And then the half ended when they kneeled the ball with 17 seconds to go. And then they were able to get a field goal, and I thought the offense might be able to pick things up. They were hanging around 10-3, and they couldn't. They couldn't take advantage, even though the defense, and Zac Taylor said this, we put Zac Taylor up, Joe Burrow up, their reaction to this game, they could not respond when the defense responded. When Jermaine Pratt forces the Jerome Ford fumble and Chidobe Awuzie recovers, that's a perfect time. It looks like the Browns are going to go in for a score. It's a perfect time to grab some momentum. Couldn't do it. And the same thing goes for the Dax Hill interception. It's 10-3. You get the interception. All right, go maybe tie the game. Certainly make it 10-6. Now it's, a touchdown puts you ahead. You feel pretty good about where you're at considering how you've played. And instead, you have the missed field goal, and you get 0 points there. And there was never enough rhythm on offense. The defense, I thought, played relatively well. Now, Nick Chubb averaged nearly 6 yards a carry, and that was certainly one of my keys to victory. If you watch, don't let Nick Chubb go off, and he did, ran for 106 yards. Part of that might have had to do with the elements too, and I asked Cam Taylor-Britt about that, an interview that you can also check out right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. says it's hard to wrap up in the elements, but both teams had to play in them. And that was the point, I will say, across the board, from Zach Taylor to Joe Burrow to T. Higgins on down, Cam Taylor-Britt. They always said they had to play in it too. So it might make it tougher, but it's tougher for everybody. This Bengals offense, I had really, really high expectations for them, and today they didn't deliver. Now it's one game. They'll remind you that it's one game, and there is no reason to overreact to 1 week in the NFL, but today was ugly. And so if you want to make huge conclusions about preseason, huge conclusions about Joe Burrow's calf, if you want to do that, you can. I don't think anyone in that locker room was doing that in the postgame, and the Bengals have left the stadium since. They are getting on their flight back to Cincinnati, and they'll start preparing. But here's what I will say. If the Bengals are going to be the Bengals that everybody expected them to be this season, this offense cannot have another performance like that. That was just awful, and worse than awful. I mean, they've had some bad performances, whether it's in this stadium or against other teams, even Burrow's rookie year, but it wasn't like that. Like, it was just out of sync, and it didn't feel like it was working at all. Like, nothing was working. And you could say, well, run the ball more. And Joe Mixon looked pretty good today. Averaged 4.3 a carry. At one point was at 4.9 and even 5.1 towards the end of the game. Got hit for a couple it got brought down for a loss or two, and that's what kind of took that average down to 4.3. We'll see, but I thought he looked good today, and that's the type of Joe Mixon you want to see. I was wrong about Chase Brown in the backfield. Chris Evans was the one getting a lot of touches. Travion Williams some, but Chris Evans looked like the RB2 today. We will see how that works. But, yeah, this offense, they need to figure it out. They need to figure it out quick. You know, the whole slow start narrative, that continues now, and it feels like Groundhog Day again. And it's the Baltimore Ravens coming to town next week. That's a tough, tough matchup. So we're going to have you covered. I'm going to have plenty of thoughts all week long right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Make sure you check out DJ Reader and Cam Taylor-Britt, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. We have your post-game coverage right here, and we're going to have your coverage all season long, all year long right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. So tell a friend about us. Hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell. Check out allbengals.com and the Locked On Bengals podcast. And until next time, for Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien signing off for now. Thank you so much for watching Cincinnati Bengals Talk.